Hello, a community of spouses and spouses to be. I am back today with another video, getting back to the basics in marriage. As I've been speaking on a series of the marriage covenant and just sharing some practical ways that we can stick to the basics in marriage, and I'm just kind of understanding the true meaning of the marriage covenant and how entering into the marriage covenant should definitely be taken, not be taken advantage of, but taken very seriously as you prepare and enter into the marriage covenant. So today I want to discuss the workaholic / the career person. And this is a biggie. At one point, it seemed like, people have come with this new whole going to school thing and focusing on their career. And I'm going to just work till I climb the top and get to the top of the ladder. And all that is wonderful. I am not on here to say that going to school is a bad thing. I'm not on here to say that you should not want to grow in your career or get into a bigger place as far as getting to the top of the ladder. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. What I am saying is don't let it consume you and don't let it take over your marriage. Don't let it become first place when coming into the marriage covenant. It's definitely something that you want to take into consideration going into the marriage covenant. A lot of people are holding out from getting married because they keep feeling like, well, I have to, get this grand job, and I have to make a certain kind amount of money, and I have to just be at a certain place before I can actually settle down and get married. And that's not necessarily true. You can still get married with a job and have plans for your future and how you want to develop in your career. But once you enter into a marriage covenant, and a lot of times, especially after being in a marriage covenant for a while, people kind of run from the things that goes along in a marriage covenant, and so they use work as their excuse to not have to deal with things in the marriage covenant. And that's a no-no. You don't want to enter into a marriage covenant as a workaholic / placing your career in front of your marriage covenant. If you and your spouse have come up with some type of strategic plan as far as how your career is going to go and how we're going to do schooling and how work plays a part, that is one thing. But to come into a marriage covenant and to place the burden on the other person by one spouse being absent in the home constantly, you are setting your marriage up for failure. You don't want to be developing on a company, on someone else's company, building their company up in your marriage covenant, your marriage, your home life, your family life, that which is your company. It's not being built or set on a solid foundation because you're too busy building someone else's foundation or someone else's company. That's a no-no. So you want to take into consideration of a workaholic. Some people have like weird schedules, like the middle of the night schedule, or working certain schedules, and you have to do what works for your household and for your home. I just want to cautions us, especially as wives, that we should want to be home in a decent amount of time when our husbands is home, like maybe not leaving him home in the middle of the night. I know sometimes, as maybe like it's like I work in the medical field, so you have some nurses who work in the middle of the night, and that may work for their household. Every household is different. This is just for the ones who is for. But you just want to be mind considerate of your schedule and what type of schedule you're setting up when you're in a marriage covenant. When you're entering into a marriage covenant, those little things that you think it's not a big deal, those things play a huge role going into a marriage covenant. You don't want to be that person that necessarily doing all this traveling all the time. You do that stuff when you're single. You do that stuff when you don't have a family. You do that kind of stuff when it's just you and you. You just kicking it. You just graduated from college or whatever, and you live in that life. But once you become one with someone else, all those traveling schedules, unless you and your spouse can travel together, that's one thing. But if you constantly away from the house, and you constantly going on these different business trips, and you constantly working all types of hours, these long hours where you're basically just coming home to sleep, you don't have any room or any energy to do anything with your wife or your children, that's not the job for you. And so you want to take those type of things into consideration when you enter into the marriage covenant. The Bible tells us in Mark 8:36, what does it prosper a man to gain the entire world and loses his own soul? You out here chasing money and chasing dollar bills and chasing, this career life and chasing this and you thinking that you're doing something grand because, I'm supporting my family and I'm able to allow my family to do these kind of things, but you're abandoning your home and you're abandoning your covenant. What people don't understand is in a marriage covenant, there's constant room for growth. We are constantly growing because there are seasons that's constantly changing. And so when the seasons are changing, it is almost indefinitely that you need to stay on top of it. You need to continue to move in your marriage covenant because you grow out of things. You grow out of certain seasons. The things that you used to can do and it was, we can just do this and this is fine. Those things change. And so the conversations changes. The way you start feeling about that person change. The way you start looking at that person start to change. So you don't want to be constantly on the go, running, and chasing dollars and chasing money and chasing, I want to be this big CEO person. I'm not saying that you can't do those things, and maybe you and your spouse may be on a level where you can come to some kind of agreement. But what I am saying is, for the ones that this is for, don't let work be your main thing in your marriage covenant. Don't let work have the front line when it comes down to your marriage covenant. When you become a married person, work and your career is everything else is secondary above when it comes down to your marriage covenant. Your marriage covenant is the most next important thing after your relationship with God. And so you want to definitely try to take those things in consideration. You are missing out on, even if you don't have children yet, you are missing out on just life itself and the beauty of life. People just saying, we need money to live in this world, and we do, and we need money to do these things, we need money to do these things. But sometimes just sitting down and having a decent dinner at the table with your spouse, that's something to do. You don't have to necessarily run all across the world to enjoy life with each other. And then especially if you have little ones, these kids, they only stay small for a certain amount of time, and so they're constantly growing. So you're missing out on precious moments that you cannot get back. So just be mindful. The Bible also tells us in Matthew 19:6, what God has joined together, let not man separate. So don't allow the man of the world, meaning your work, your career, I'm busy, I got a busy schedule. Don't let other things separate you from your family. Place your family above those things. Work, careers, that stuff all is secondary in the marriage covenant. Have a plan, discuss it, talk about it. Are we going to do this for a season? Are we going to do this for this amount of time? If we're going to do it for, you're going to go to school for this amount of time and finish this up, or you're going to go and work these hours for this amount of time, and so we can work on this project in the house. Put your marriage covenant first. Blessings.